Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back. It is August 4th. This is episode 121. This is the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. We're going to download, rate, review, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. Don Harris.
What's up?
How was your weekend?
Great. My son Grant and his wife Ellie flew into town from Phoenix.
Yeah, it was a weird weekend for you where you didn't have to be in here on a Sunday. So
Yeah, it was nice. We got to spend some good family time with both my boys and their wives.
Very
It's
nice.
always fun. I always have to pick up the check. That was expensive dinner.
Where'd you go?
That's a dad thing.
Went to North Italia at the Rim.
Is it good? I've never been there.
It's very good.
What'd you get?
Yeah. I had meatballs and a salad. They have a really good gorgonzola dressing that I love. But the kids always order the most expensive stuff on the menu.
You prefer that or Paisanos?
Oh, they're both good.
I love Paisanos. I like the one at
North Italia has a really good little pizza.
really.
Yeah, if you like thin, crispy pizza, really good.
There's a place
Yeah.
called Albis Vitae, which is like right down the street, which is actually really good.
Yeah.
Knew nothing about it until I just stopped by and I was like, oh, let's get some eggplant parm. It's phenomenal. Anyway, so Don, you had a good weekend. I had a good weekend.
I did.
We were here. We were watching a lot of the Olympic stuff. We had a lot
Fun.
of couple San Antonians competing this weekend. So it was
Olympics
nice to
are
watch.
fun.
Olympics are awesome. Simone Biles came in. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you're watching us, you're probably not watching the Olympics right now. But Simone Biles just wrapped up her career probably in the gymnastics. So,
Okay, this is. Let me tell you. This is how weird. My best friends in the world, my two college buddies from North Texas. We're obsessed with weird sports stuff, and we had the longest text chain about Simone Biles and the floor exercise. And at 4'8", could she dunk? Now, hold on a second. We know that the floor exercise has springs underneath it,
Yeah.
right? I did some research and realized that all athletes who are on that thing say it doesn't give you that much of a spring. It does, but not that much. That the springs are to absorb the impact on the landings, not like a trampoline to vault you higher, although they do. So her head, the top of her head gets 11'8".
yeah,
at the
almost
apex.
12. Yeah.
Yeah, at the apex of her jump. So if she did that same run up, the flipping and then boom, take off for that flip on a regular hardwood basketball court, on an NBA hardwood basketball court, how high would her head get?
Here's what I don't know is
Hold on, we got there too. I know what
is
you're going to
how
say.
would a basketball holding a basketball could
That's
she
what
do?
was thinking.
I
My
think
hands
that
were up thinking.
I think that if she could do it and it would be like an alley oop, then I think she could do it.
We talked. That's exactly right. It'd have to be a lob. She'd have to control herself enough and all that flippiness to catch a lob.
No
I don't think
twisties.
she has to flip around and stuff. She can just jump straight.
Well,
No,
no, because you
because you get
some of your
momentum off
from
those
the
back
flip, yeah.
Not
handsprings.
that when she jumped.
So what we determined was if she could do 3 or 4 back handsprings on a regular hardwood, take off, and somehow catch a lob, that even if she wasn't 11'8" high, even if she was 3 feet lower, like 9.
Well, I was gonna say she's only got to get to
2'8".
like 9.5. Her head, because her arms can get over
Okay,
the
well
rim.
if her head's 9.5, she can dunk.
100%. I think she could.
That's
dunk.
incredible.
Yeah,
at 4'8".
My favorite thing is that picture with her and Shaq, 5'1" and 7'1" and 4'8",
Yeah,
and she's like literally to his hip. It's hilarious. So we got a lot going on.
spectacular athlete.
We're going to talk a little bit about Olympic basketball. The people who are paid to dunk. Wemby is going to be playing Team Canada. That's going to be a tough matchup for him. U.S. is going to be playing Brazil. They got a much easier draw on their side of the bracket. They don't have to play Germany, Canada, or France until the final, should they get there.
Because they took care of business.
They did take care of business. They talk the latest on Cowboys camp. Troy Aikman with saying some stuff on the Pat McAfee show about Dak's contract, if he's going to be back with the Cowboys. So we'll talk about all that. And then I thought about this coming in. The White Sox have lost 20 games in a row. They're 27-87. So I don't really care about the White Sox and don't want to talk about that, but I can't imagine being a fan of that franchise. So I thought of the question, what would cause you to not be a fan? What would cause you to give up your fandom? And I'm particularly interested in your answer because
I feel like this is aimed at me.
as a Browns fan, I'm just curious as to what
I'll
would
have a lot to say later.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later too. But I want to get to our trivia question and we'll get to the Olympics. Our trivia question today. Andre Johnson went into the Hall of Fame this weekend, the first Texan to grace the Hall of Fame.
Houston
with his presence.
Texan.
Yes, thank you. Houston Texan to go into the Hall of Fame from the expansion franchise that was got into the NFL in 2002. He was drafted in 2003. Andre Johnson is one of 3 players to lead the NFL in receiving yards in back-to-back seasons. Who are the other 2? Is my question. Andre Johnson is one of only 3 players to lead the NFL in receiving yards in back-to-back years. Who are the other 2? It has been done it's been done 4 times. One of these players did it twice. So I'll just
The first name that I have to throw out would be Jerry Rice,
it's a good answer.
and then maybe Fred Biletnikoff.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, everyone ponder for a little bit. We'll get back to it right after the Olympic stuff. But I wanted to make it Hall of Fame worthy question today.
Speaking of, can I throw this in there real fast
Yeah.
on the Houston Texans? Because you brought up the expansion franchise.
Yeah.
So the second greatest soundbite that I've gotten in an interview in my 35 plus year career came from Bob McNair in a one-on-one I did with him when he was buying the franchise.
Okay. So early 2000s.
Yeah, they were about a year from playing football. He had bought the franchise. They were, we went to Houston. We got to sit down one-on-one with him. And I asked him this question. What's it like to write a check for $1 billion? Because that's what he had to do to buy the stadium and the franchise from the NFL. And his soundbite is second only to a Don King soundbite that I got. I said, what's it like to write a check for $1 billion? And without even hesitating, he looked at me and he said, well, I wouldn't suggest you do it very often.
I mean, if I could just do it once.
So great.
Well, now I want to know what the number 1 quote was.
I still have it memorized. I think it was 1993. Don King was in town for the big opening of the Alamo Dome. The first event in the Alamo Dome, the Julio Cesar Chavez Pernell Whitaker fight. And I don't even know what the question was. But the answer was, it's not Pale Male by Wimma Caprice, not isolation, alienation, or polarization, but friendship, unanimity, and zeal, constricting all negativism to its narrowest form.
You really do have that memorized. That's 31 years ago.
And I was looking at him like, what does that mean? Yeah.
That's the best one?
Yeah. It's not isolation, polarization, or alienation, but friendship, unanimity, and zeal, constricting all negativism to its narrowest form.
All right. So the Olympics.
Don King. Don King.
So France lost to Germany pretty handily to kind of fall, and then now they have to play Canada in the quarterfinals. Canada I think, has the second best odds to win the gold medal besides the U.S.
Yeah. What did I tell y'all last week about Germany? What did I tell y'all last week about Germany?
Moritz Wagner.
They're the real deal.
Yeah, they are. They're really good, and the Wagner brothers are playing out of their minds.
I wouldn't be surprised they won the gold medal.
Wagner, you're right. How much pressure do you think Wemby has on himself, on him and the weight of the nation, kind of, because everyone's kind of been anticipating these Olympics as, okay, well, we're going to see France and they're going to compete for gold, and they won gold before, and what's going to happen here?
Well, they won gold in the World Championships.
Right. I think there's a lot of pressure on him.
Maybe. I don't think there should be, and I don't think there really is, because I think Batum and Gobert and the older guys still see him as their little brother who's they're bringing up. Now, he's still the best player on that team, and I think there is pressure on him because there's so much media attention paid to him. But the fact he's kind of like Anthony Edwards on this Team USA team. It's Kevin Durant, LeBron James's team. And Ant is coming along with them, and they're growing him up. Same thing with France, with Gobert and Batum and those guys. It's just that Wemby's a lot better.
Yeah, but I was going to say Anthony Edwards isn't the best player on the team.
True. Yeah.
Wemby's the best player on the team by far.
But he's still 20 years old. So I don't think there's as much pressure as maybe people are putting on him. I don't think he feels that pressure. And I don't think his teammates are putting that pressure on him.
That was going to be my next question.
It's unfair that he's having to bear that load. If he doesn't play well, they don't play very well at all. Like where's Gobert?
Well, Gobert shouldn't be on the floor with him.
Where is Gobert?
Gobert's not great. He's just not very good. And him on the floor with Wemby does not help because the spacing's horrible.
But you know what? I don't hold international ball against anybody. Tim Duncan wasn't. You guys know how much I love Tim Duncan and how I will defend his record as the third greatest player in the history of the game. But Tim Duncan wasn't a very good FIBA player, and some guys just aren't.
Would it be a disappointment, though, to have them lose in the quarterfinals as the home nation? Your only game in France, the other stuff.
Not Canada.
I don't know. I don't really think it matters who you lose to.
Canada's really good.
I mean, Canada's good.
I think, too, the casual fan who's not looking at it all, yes, all that will be true. Stephen A. Smith, and it'll be a hot topic when they lose, and he'll get trashed and all that for a day or two. Yes, but that doesn't mean that it's accurately that he should be crucified when they lose to Canada.
I think if France loses in the quarterfinals, it wouldn't be as big of a disaster. It wouldn't be as big of like a story as the U.S. not winning at all. Like if the U.S. don't win the gold, it's a bigger disappointment than France losing in the quarters.
True. Yeah.
That would be my comment on it. Just because the U.S. I feel has the most pressure of anybody.
True. Always,
because that's who should win the gold. This year, I think we all kind of hyped it up in our heads to be a little bit different because you do have such a talented Germany team. You have a talented Canada team. You have a talented French team. The international game has grown so much to where the U.S. is not head and shoulders above everybody anymore.
Correct.
And so now,
why is that so hard for people to comprehend? And it's been that way for, I don't know, since Manu beat him in 2004. Now, they did regroup and come back and win all the Olympics since.
Didn't France win in 2004 in Greece?
Argentina
win the gold that year?
Yeah.
Huh.
Manu. France has never won gold at the Olympics in basketball.
So what do you think of Wemby's play so far in the Olympics?
Spotty. You see signs of what he does, but he's been pushed around a lot. Those German boys, those German Wagner boys beat him up pretty good.
Well, he also isn't getting that much help. Like Evan Fournier has been bad. Nicholas Batum has been not great because he's an older player now. This is probably his last Olympics.
They don't have a great team. Canada's better. Germany's better.
They don't. I mean, Ntilikina couldn't make it in the NBA for a reason. I mean, Bilal Coulibaly is second-year player. I mean, he's young as well. He's going to be good in almost non-existent in this entire, and he's their second best player theoretically. So like, I don't
wonder how much of that is the fact that he's having to pass the torch to Wemby, and he's kind of embarrassed that this kid's better than him.
They just don't play well together.
True.
Like when they're on the floor together, France is a worse team.
True.
So when you're looking at this stuff, do you think that it's still? But I mean, we've seen 12 games so far in these Olympics from all the teams.
The U.S. is the best team. The U.S. should win, but because it's not a series, anything can happen in one game, like South Sudan. They should win, but Canada and Germany are very much capable of beating them on any given day.
I think Canada could win it all.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on who comes out of there, though, but the U.S. got by really easily. They're going to have to play Brazil, and then they're going to have to play either Greece or not Greece, Australia, or I'm forgetting the fourth team. But they got off pretty easy on their side of the bracket. They should cruise to the finals. Yeah, I think they'll have to play Serbia or Australia.
Serbia is good, but see, like Bogdanovic went off for 30. If Shea can go off, Patty Mills' team's pretty good. They're pretty good.
Do you think this is the most parity that have been in the Olympics for a long time?
The last one was really good.
2021?
Yeah. But this one's better.
Yeah, you just have so many. Like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was second in MVP voting, third in MVP voting. He's playing for Canada. Yeah. I mean, you have so many good players all over the place. You have NBA talent all over the world now, instead of just located in one or two different countries, like in 2004 with Argentina.
And that's what I was saying. Like, why is it so hard to comprehend? Like when Charles Barkley and Bird and Magic were the dream team in '92, there were like 9 other NBA players on all the other teams combined, and now there's like, what is it, 55, 56?
Something like that.
So the world has gotten so much better. Huh?
Tell me the story of South Sudan. Like explain
They have a couple NBA players there too.
So Royal Ivy, who played at the University of Texas, played in the NBA for I think like 8 years, is their national team coach. They've got kids that are playing at Baylor. They got a couple of NBA players. I don't know. That are, they would be the equivalent of Dominic Barlow.
Yeah,
they
they have 10th men on the roster.
Yeah. But what I don't know is the story of their country. Like, how long has South Sudan been around? Because the other day I was building a scoreboard and I went in our graphics package and their flag does not exist in our graphics package.
What I read the other day actually is that their whole men's Olympics team, basketball team, is being fronted by Luol Deng.
Yeah.
Who is a very good NBA player. He made a lot of money in his day, but the whole thing's being paid for by Luol Deng.
Yeah.
Which I just don't know the logistics behind all of it. So
yeah, I don't know. When did they split from
regular Sudan?
The Sudan, yeah.
I don't think there's like one indoor basketball court in the country.
Yeah.
Do you think you could find South Sudan on a map if I gave you a map?
If you showed me Sudan, I'd probably look to the south.
But if I just gave you if I gave you a map of Africa,
no.
Do you think you could find South Sudan?
I have trouble finding France.
No. I'm embarrassed to say I could not.
I'm happy to say I could. We did that the other day. I don't know why I was sitting there with my friends and they're like, find South Sudan.
But do we not know when it split? Somebody who's watching this, tell us. Educate us.
I don't know the history of South Sudan.
Well, it's recent.
It's not on my 3-page sheet here.
It's recent.
I think that the U.S. will still win. They're still going to win.
Agreed.
They're going to win their 5th gold medal in a row, and this is all going to be for naught. Wemby's going to be fine. He's going to play well against Canada. They don't have a lot of big men. They'll be fine.
The only time they didn't win gold was the Russian rob job in 72, and then 2004 with Manu.
Yep. And Luis Scola on that team, too.
Yes.
All right, let's get to the trivia answer real quick while Bob is looking up South Sudan facts.
2011. Declared and recognized in 2011.
There you go. Trivia question was, Andre Johnson is one of 3 players to lead the NFL in receiving yards in back-to-back years. Who are the other 2?
My guess was Jerry Rice and Fred Biletnikoff.
Those are your 2 guesses. We're locking it in?
Yes.
Jerry Rice is correct. Fred Biletnikoff, I don't have an but it's wrong.
Okay.
I really wanted him to be that in that list.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice is the only player.
Hold on. Let me
just tell you, Jerry. Jerry led in 89 and 90, and then he did it for 3 consecutive years in 93, 94, 95. So he's the only player to ever lead.
Who threw the ball a lot when nobody else did? Like Dan Marino, but he had 3 or 4
It's
guys.
far more recent than that. It's actually after Andre Johnson did it. Andre Johnson did it in 08, 09.
Terrell Owens.
Nope.
I give up.
Moss?
Nope.
I don't know.
Megatron.
Yeah.
He was the only person that could catch the ball on that team. So Matthew Stafford just kept throwing it to him.
Yeah.
11 and 12 are the years that he did it. 2011, 2012. One of those
underrated player.
Hall of Famer. One of those years is when he set the all-time receiving record for the season. I think it was 1,908 yards or something like that in a 16-game season.
Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket.
You say Red Jacket.
Ramblin' Wreck is what I was going to say.
But yeah, Calvin Johnson, Andre Johnson, and Jerry Rice are the 3 people to lead the NFL in receiving yards in back-to-back seasons ever in NFL history. So, interestingly enough, speaking of NFL history, Dak Prescott maybe going to be named the highest-paid player in NFL history, and a former Cowboys quarterback seems to think that is going to be it. Troy Aikman was on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, and he talked a lot about Dak, his contract, if he's going to be the highest paid player, and if he is the highest paid player, is it going to be with the Dallas Cowboys?
What I respect so much about Dak, one is he's a great leader. He's a great person, but he's an old school guy in that he doesn't care about anything but winning. And it frustrates him beyond imagination that they haven't had more success in the postseason. And it's the only thing that's keeping him from really being mentioned with Pat Mahomes and some of the other greats.
It feels like it's a lame duck year down there, though, doesn't it? Hey,
well, it does.
Doesn't it?
If he breaks through this year, I mean, I do believe he's going to be the first quarterback to 60 million. And
from Jerry or somewhere else?
Well, that's That's the question. And the longer this goes, the more I think he will be playing somewhere else. I just, if it continues to drag on and he plays great, and then the Cowboys come in late to say, hey, now we want to pay you. I don't know. I don't know where his head will be at that point.
Again, that was Troy Aikman on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday. What does AJ Hawk do there, really? Like, AJ Hawk just sits there and doesn't actually say any words, but he's
like Ed McMahon from the old Johnny Carson show.
Like,
yes, sir.
I love McAfee and his crew, but AJ Hawk,
you are correct,
just
Matt.
Not saying anything. But anyway, that's besides the point. There's a couple.
Who was Conan O'Brien's little guy? Andy.
I don't know his last name.
Show now, didn't he?
Yeah.
Andy.
Or he did.
Yes, sir.
Is it called the Andy Show? No one knows his last name.
Sure.
There's a couple interesting things in that bite. First, I thought the most interesting part was the question by McAfee: is it a lame duck year for the Cowboys? That's what kind of the narrative is surrounding it, because they didn't make a lot of great offseason improvements. They haven't really signed their stars or anything like that. Are they going to improve on a 12-5 record? I don't really think so. So is it a lame duck year when you have everybody in a one-year contract like the way they do?
Yeah. I mean, of course it is. Now, will they sign Dak and CD in the first month of the season? Then it changes everything. But McCarthy certainly is a lame duck. And at this point, Dak is. And from Jerry's comments on opening day, see, Jerry goes all over the place. He tells us opening day, we're all in for this year. Let's just focus on this year. Now, a lot of us have a lot at stake 2-3 years down the road, but I want us to just focus on 1 year. So you're like, okay, he's not going to sign Dak all year. He's going to make him play it out, see how he does in the playoffs, and then decide if he wants to offer him a big deal. But then he comes back 2 days later and goes, we're working on it. We're talking. It's positive.
But then you heard from Troy right there. Like, if they do that, what's to say that they're going to be able to sign him in this offseason?
Correct.
Like, if you allow him to be a free agent, he's exactly that. He can go anywhere he wants, and he's going to get a significantly better offer from somewhere else than the Cowboys.
Not necessarily.
I think so.
Well, first of all, if you're Jerry and he doesn't win you a playoff game, you don't want him anyway. Secondly, if he does win you a playoff game and you're prepared to match any offer, 60, whatever, if you're Dak, you're tempted to go somewhere else because this team didn't have faith in you or hung you out to dry or sent you through a lame duck season. But at the end of the day, if you're a quarterback with the star on the helmet, ask Troy Aikman, ask Tony Romo, you're much more valuable after football, ask Tom Brady, in getting one of those $100 million deals to be an analyst.
See, I don't buy that. I see that it's happened in the past. Roger Staubach is obviously a billionaire now. Troy is one of the best play-by-play people that you'll have, or analysts, that you'll have. But he's played for them for 9 years. After this year, it'll be 9 years with the star on your helmet. I don't think it matters where you go after that. Like, you'll still have, you were the Cowboys quarterback for 9 seasons before that.
Yeah, maybe.
And you see, like, Patrick Mahomes is a superstar, maybe because he's the best player in the world, but Patrick Mahomes is a superstar where he is. Lamar Jackson is a superstar in Baltimore. Like, you see Joe Burrow is a superstar in Cincinnati. I don't think you need the star on your helmet right now anymore. Like, I just don't think that's how it goes.
It's blasphemy. It's Cowboys blasphemy right there.
How so? You don't need the star on your helmet to be a star after football.
You don't need to. Tom Brady is, but you have to.
Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time. He's an anomaly. Like, he was going to make $1 billion.
But Joe Burrow's not going to be the voice of NFL football. Look at Drew Brees.
He could be if you wanted to.
No, Drew Brees couldn't.
Drew Brees could.
They tried to make him.
So, some people also don't have that skill set.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes' voice, he has no shot of being in broadcasting.
I don't think he wants to. He owns part of the Royals. He's already half a billionaire. Like,
yeah,
he's got other things going on. If you want to be an analyst, sure, being a Cowboy is great. But I don't think that Dak needs to end his career a Cowboy to have a great career post-football.
That's a valid point. I'm not going to argue it.
I think that there's a real possibility that he goes somewhere else, especially because of this quote that he said the other day. To paraphrase, he said he has an obligation to, one, his team, his family, and to other people around the league to get the best deal possible.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm a guy that grew up with 2 older brothers. You understand what a brotherhood means, not only for just this team, but for the fraternity of the NFL and the players. The money is out there and the money can happen. It can be done. There's ways to make everything work for both sides. That's in the sense it's always about pushing the envelope for the next man.
Also, I wouldn't be surprised if things escalate both with he and CD now that the lawsuit, the DirecTV,
the NFL Sunday Ticket lawsuit
has been thrown out, because I think Jerry was really concerned about that impact on the cap and this financially future. And so now that that's been thrown out, I think Jerry might expedite negotiation.
I wouldn't be surprised if CD's signed this week.
No, not at all.
Dak's just a whole nother beast, because you have to. I don't think anybody has the correct sense, except for Jerry and Steven, of what dollar they're willing to go to. Nobody understands that point.
And I'm with Jerry and I'm with Steven, and I don't get this Dak $60 million number. Dak's the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. Why does he have to be the highest paid?
According to other NFL players, he's the 16th best player in the NFL. And he's the 5th best quarterback.
Okay, then pay him the 5th best quarterback number.
Well, that doesn't add up, because
Why?
Because Trevor Lawrence isn't the 5th best quarterback, and he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now.
So why would you overpay a guy who's not that great?
Because that's the market value right now.
The market value should be he's
What
the
it
5th
should
best
be, what it
quarterback.
should be is different than what it is.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback. He's not being paid the best.
But he was when he got that deal.
Correct. And now you have Dak, who is next in line. That's how it's going right now.
But
You're
Dak's
the next
not
man
the
up.
best player in the NFL right now.
But if you want to sign him, you're going to have to sign him to at least $56 million a year, which is the going rate. $56 million a year would make him the highest paid quarterback
I would
in the history
give him
of the NFL.
$1 more than Trevor Lawrence got.
They're not going to take it.
Well, I mean,
Well-
that's the name of the game. That's building a team. You decide where you're going to put your money.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is all Deshaun Watson's fault.
It is.
It's all the Browns' fault, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
What were
and
they thinking?
And that gets us to
Speaking
the
of
last question.
Browns.
And speaking of the Browns, that gets us to our last question. You got to let me know when you sneeze so I can mute your mic real quick.
I turned.
So the White Sox have lost 20 straight games. They're 27-87. They could win every game the rest of the season, and they would still be 12 games under 500. I don't know how anybody is still going to the games. I don't know how anybody's still a White Sox fan, but it led me to the question of what would it take for you to not be a fan of your team anymore? Bob, I'm going to ask you first. You are a fan of the Browns. You've been a fan of the Browns your whole life.
They moved to Baltimore, and I'm still a fan.
Yeah, they moved to Baltimore and didn't want you anymore, and then you still said, no, I'm a fan.
Not only you can't take the name.
Yeah.
The team's name is ours. You can go, but you can't take the name with you.
So
Go ahead.
no,
love
so
it.
that's
I love
my
it.
question. What would it take?
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing that Brown sports teams can basically do, or Cleveland sports teams could do. I mean, they could change their name to something stupid like the Guardians, and we'll still be fans. You know, it's a huge sports town. You get like the little babies are dressed up in their Cleveland sports gear from the moment they're born.
That's like child abuse.
And yeah, it is. And you live it your whole life, and it's what the conversation is in every bar. It's what you talk to when I talk to my dad, the first thing we talk about, not how's the family or anything like that, is we talk about what's it look like the free agents the Browns put it. You know, like it's all that's the first thing we talk about, and the longest thing we talk about.
Yeah, that's how it is for everybody.
So what's
For a lot
the
of people.
biggest heartbreak, the drive or the fumble?
Oh man, I think the drive was really bad, but the fumble hurt me because I didn't know that Binder fumbled when he went to the end zone. I was jumping up and down, screaming, celebrating the touchdown, and I couldn't tell. It was really loud and everything, and I couldn't tell that he had fumbled. I thought, we had just put the game away or whatever, and
I think the drive's better.
Then
but,
something else happened.
I don't know if you know this, Bob. The very first time I appeared on Channel 4, which was, I think, the fall of '89. But the very first story I did was went to the Cleveland Browns backers watch party.
Was that the Galaxy?
Tom Deschamps, and I think Tom's gone now. He's probably passed on because it's been 35 years.
Was that at a pool hall?
No, it was at a little. Yes.
Yeah, the Galaxy. It was used to be called the Galaxy Pool Hall.
Yeah. And they met over there, and they wore their dog pound noses.
Passed the helmet around.
And
time
they were a great group of people. And I probably did 2 or 3 stories with them over the years. But that was the very first time I appeared on Channel 4.
Being in this
Cleveland Browns backers, the nose.
Being in this industry, you kind of lose your fandom a little bit because you have to be impartial when you do highlights and all that stuff. But for you, what would it take for you to not be a fan of your football team or your baseball team, basketball team, whoever?
First of all, baseball, White Sox fans, you don't go to a baseball game for win or loss. You go for hot dog and beer. So because we've had the missions this whole time.
Yeah.
You don't care if they win.
$2 hot dog beer night. That's great.
Yeah.
Tuesday nights, baby.
I grew up here as a hardcore Spurs fan. I named my son Landry after Tom Landry of the Cowboys. So I grew, but I got to say, and I hate to say this out loud, but I've lost my fandom because of the job I'm in, right? So I've had to cover the Cowboys. So I don't root for the Cowboys on Sundays. There's nothing in my gut that like, oh, if it's a big play and it's a playoff game where I'm sweating it like I was when my kids were playing or the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs I'm still a fan of that way. Like I'm watching
different for the Spurs and for the Cowboys.
I don't know.
You've covered them more intimately. Like the Spurs are here. They're your hometown team.
Yeah.
You've covered them for 35 years now.
Yeah, and I mean I went to the arena when I was 10 years old, the old hemisphere. I mean, so that's so deep in me that I always like when the Spurs were playing the Lakers in the finals in 14, I'm sweating out those finishes.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick at my stomach after the Ray Allen shot for a month, but with the Cowboys, I want to,
Well, I think everyone has their team that they live and die with. Like, yeah. I have a favorite baseball team, basketball team, football team, hockey team, but I live and die with my favorite football team. Like the Broncos, I'm reading every blog. I'm reading a training camp post. I'm watching the press conferences every day. Like I'm a Heat fan as well, but I don't live and die with the Heat as much as I do with the Denver Broncos. I don't know if there's anything that they could do that would make me not a fan. Like they could probably lose for 20 consecutive seasons, which they're well on track to do. And I would probably still be a fan, barring some like OJ Simpson like scandal. Even then I would be like, just kick that guy off. You know
what's interesting? I think I've gotten my fandom back recently. I rooted really hard and got really nervous at the end of UTSA games when Frank Harris played quarterback.
That was gonna be my other point. I feel like when you're in this industry, you root for people.
Yeah,
more like
100.
Wherever Jeff goes after UTSA, because
I'll root for him.
I will always root for Jeff Traylor. And like I said, unless some huge scandal comes on for somebody, then I don't root for that person anymore. You root for people more
when you know them.
Right.
Yeah, when you know them.
Right. Like we root for here in San Antonio, we root for Andrew Hudson, who just ran the 200 meter because he's from Steele High School. We root for people like that. But I don't even think like in those scenarios, your fandom goes away for your team or for your people.
I remember people killed me because I was rooting for Manu and the Argentinians against Team USA back in 2004.
Oh, well,
but Tim was on that team and Pop was on that team, and I was rooting for Manu.
A lot of people love Manu.
I think the owner is the closest thing. Like Art Modell. We hated Art Modell.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if you remember Ted Stepien.
Oh yeah.
Like
Cavs owner. He was awful.
Yeah, well, also awful man. I mean, that's the closest I think you could get is by the owner just like disrespecting the fans.
Well, like Donald Sterling.
Donald Sterling.
If they didn't get rid of Donald Sterling, I think the Clippers would have lost a lot of fans.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't. One of their 2 fans that they have. But Ballmer's done a lot of good things to bring them back. So I mean, I get that. I think if the ownership group is bad enough that they could really turn some people off. But all right, I just thought that was a good conversation. So that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember,
shout out Tom Guerrero.
Download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Tom, if you want to tell us your take, let us know. If anyone else has any hot takes or wants to tell me what would cause you to, put your fandom aside, put it in the comments. I'll go respond to a lot of them in the YouTube and Facebook and, wherever else we're streaming. I think we're streaming on Instagram as well. So anyway, that's all we got for you today. We'll see you back here on Thursday.